Whether you become a Netflix or a Blockbuster depends on your ability to recognise the sometimes uncomfortable fact that you need to stay ahead of change. At Zurich, we want to help you engage and embrace change, and that's why we've partnered with AdviserVoice to produce the FinTech Labs, which will bring you a broad array of financial technological innovation, all geared to help you and your businesses. We hope you enjoy the series. Welcome back to the AdviserVoice Zurich FinTech Lab series, and today we're speaking with Asiat David from Aged Care Steps, and specifically we're talking about the Aged Care Advice Generator software. And there's no doubt that with an ageing population in Australia, there's going to be an increasing need for advisors to be able to provide advice to take clients from the family home into aged care services. So firstly, welcome Asiat. And
thank you.
Can you give us an overview of how the software would work at an advisor's desk, as it were?
Sure. So first off, we're finding that aged care, as you mentioned, is definitely an increasing area of relevance for a lot of accountants and advisors who've got clients who are anywhere between 45 and 65 with parents who are still alive. A lot of them are getting queries from their clients on behalf of their parents to help them deal with the aged care issues because they tend to be the decision makers. But a lot of the accountants and advisors are finding it quite difficult to actually figure out how to do it. So what the Advice Generator does is a purpose-built tool that provides both the calculations, allows the advisor to model up to 5 different strategies in relation to aged care, and then will then generate the full advice document, including template wording at the other end.
So effectively it takes the client situation from their circumstances to a statement of advice for aged care. Is that pretty much how it works in the process?
That's right. Although within aged care, they tend to use more strategy papers as opposed to statements of advice. But it is effectively, it has the full documentation, it has financial modelling, it has all the other non-financial issues to consider, whether it be tax, estate planning, family preferences. So the idea is that it gives them a succinct but very well-documented piece of advice that allows them to make an informed decision about what is the best option in dealing with the aged care.
So Asiat, with this whole process should really streamline the way in which advisors give the advice on aged care, as I can see it. It really does condense a whole lot of work into a fairly short period of time. Have you got a sense of how much time it might save advisors?
Yes, certainly. So your comment is exactly right. What we find is a lot of advisors and accountants shy away from aged care advice because they think it's too complex, that it's an area that they're not aware of, and it's just all too hard for them. So what this advice generator does is it effectively allows them to become more efficient and also give more consistency in the advice that they're giving. And so the feedback we've received from the advisors who use it is that it can take them a matter of 1 or 2 hours, once they get the hang of it, to be able to input the client details, model the different strategies, and then generate the full advice document at the other end.
Well, this sounds really interesting, and I'm keen to hear what the panel has to say about it. So any initial observations from the panel at this stage, from Dane?
Well, I must admit, from a funds management perspective, it's not an area that we've explored to now. However, I can see how the idea of creating a very simple template, we obviously have private clients that are in these situations, so it is an opportunity that we could potentially explore to expand our revenue model.
Therese?
It's a really great piece of software from what I've had a look at it just quickly. But I'd be interested to know, like, it's not something you deal with every day in an advice practice. So what the pricing model is, and is it something you can just look at like on a one-off perspective, or is it like an ongoing?
Well, there are different. What we're finding is there are different types of advisors that deal in the aged care space.
Yep.
So there are some that might just look at it for their existing clients and may deal with it perhaps once or twice a week for clients who come along. But increasingly we're finding that there is also a large number of advisors who are specialising in aged care, and so they would be using it on a daily basis. And so that's one thing that we're definitely recognising. There is a trend towards more and more advice being given around the aged care side of things. The price of it is $275 a month. That's inclusive of GST. And the way that we price it is that we expect that advisors should charge somewhere around $3,300 to $5,000 to be able to give the strategy paper as the advice for clients, which therefore means that they should be able to recover the cost, the annual cost of the software just with the one client.
Adrian, any initial thoughts?
Yeah, from my perspective, I've actually never had any clients where I've needed to go into the aged care space, but it's something that's on the radar, and it's a matter of time before that happens. And there's a lot of people in my position, and traditionally a lot of people have been referring out. And if this is going to a specialist, aged care specialist, and if you're then able to actually bring it in house, and this facilitates people that maybe don't have as much experience and makes it easier for them to give aged care advice, then it might mean that people are getting more aged care advice, and the decisions that people are making are better, more educated.
We're also finding as well that a lot of advisors are looking at aged care advice as a means of protecting their clients as well. So there have been a number of incidences where clients who, their own clients, have needed to find some support around aged care for their parents. And if they can't come to their advisor, someone, a friend or somebody else, will generally direct them to another advisor in that space. And we're finding that once they form that relationship, because it's such a emotional issue with aged care, that it's very easy to form that trust and that relationship with an alternative advisor, then in many cases that other advisor is then asking for their business, and therefore advisors are actually losing clients as a result of not offering aged care advice. So I'd actually put it in a second in that way as well.
And to your point, we're finding very much that we are now generating in our business. We have one advisor who particularly does aged care because he has an ageing client base. And what we're finding is by asking the clients the question about how they're feeling about this and opening up that dialogue, we're actually getting new clients in their children, because it doesn't just give you the client going forward, regardless of what may happen, or the remaining client, because we're engaging with the child. That helps us do that. So I found your software, it's very comprehensive, because one of the things we've struggled with is aged care software has been hard to manage in the past. It's also then been very expensive to give that sort of advice, which has made clients a little bit like, so I like, for the brief part that I've looked at it, your software seems to be able to be easy to manage and bring it into the business.
Yes,
and
indeed.
allow advisors to do it quite simply.
That's right. And we find that the other thing too is that the rules are changing quite often in relation to aged care, so it's also important to keep up to date with that and have the software keep up to date with that as well. Particularly where you might have situations where you're dealing with couples and one may have gone or accessed aged care advice under the old rules, and the other partner's moving under the new rules, in which case then they're very different situations you have to apply. So it can get quite complex. But the software caters for all of that very simply.
Thanks, Virginia, and thanks, Asiya. We'll be back after the panel has interrogated the software more fully to hear their questions for Asiya. Thank you.